All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutation unto the hopeful elect, the 1/3 of Yashar Allah, upholding the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of their ability. Peace and salutation. This is the brother Bakwasha, and I want to go over Esau's technology and how this technology is really an agent for him to continue the surveillance in which he's doing to the hopeful elect, because really all of this surveillance has nothing to do with 2/3, has nothing to do with the other heathen nations. He's looking and attempting to be like the Most High. Scripture says that, man. He wants to be like the Most High. He wants to sit in the seat of Yahweh Shai and act as if he is Yahweh Shai. But all of this is geared towards the elect. And, it reminds me of several movies. I'm not going to go into it just because of the sake of time, but there was a movie, I think The Kingsman, when, everyone had these cell phones and how all of these cell phones would go off. And, basically it was a way to target, an enemy. And in Esau's system of wickedness and his system of deceit and subtlety, the technology in which he's using is geared towards the hopeful elect, because we, through the spirit of Yahweh Shai, are the only things that are preventing him from fulfilling his enterprise. And I just want to go into these flock cameras, and they've been around from what I can tell, at least for maybe 4 or 5 years. However, I ran across this page in which this attorney is going into talking more detailed about them, and how initially it was just to survey license plates. But because Esau's constitution and legal system has so many holes in it, like Swiss cheese, what the devil does is, and as it's often said, the devil is in the details. And so what Esau has done now, or over the course of time, is now being able to use technology, those lying words, and wonders, as a way of infiltrating privacy. And since the inception of the internet, and probably before that, there's been no such thing as the privacy at all. And so I'm gonna let this video play. I'm gonna bring out a couple quick precepts, but it's worth a watch just for your own information. But it does go into more of the wickedness of Esau, the so-called white man. So I'm gonna start off the lesson here with 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. And Lord will, this will be edifying for the elect. It says, "Least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices." And when you get into this word here, devices, it goes into
Strong's G 3540, Naima.
It goes into mental perception, thought. It says the mind. So the devices that Esau has created have been created to infiltrate the mind, to know where people are, to know how they're moving, what they're doing, when they're doing it. So it has nothing to do with license plates. The license plate is just a shoehorn for him to now capture more and more of the thoughts and the movements and the behaviors of the people. And so we're not ignorant of these things. The prophets of Yahweh Shai always sounding the alarm and letting our people know we're behind enemy lines. And these are the things that the devil will do. So I'm gonna play the video, and like I said, Lord will, it'll be edifying.
But a flock camera is just a automatic license plate reader. So kind of explain to us what that is and why it's used by police.
Well, to start out, I think that what fascinated me before even getting into the flock cameras was the tag readers that were used by repo drivers. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but repo drivers actually were the first ones to start using those tag readers. And the way that they worked, the system was that they would have the camera on their vehicles, and literally they would hire people to just drive around randomly, just capturing images. And so that's how they built up the database in order for them to kind of utilize this technology on reading tags and finding tags. So, I heard a call one day years ago from a client who indicated to me that she had gotten arrested for getting in a fight at a Kroger. And she got in a fight with the repo gentleman because she was in the store and her husband was outside and the vehicle was tagged, I guess, picked up by the repo guy because she had done a title pawn on the vehicle. And so the title pawn company had repoed the vehicle. And so as a result of that, they were stopped. And she didn't know that you could do that. And so that's how I learned about these tag readers that can instantly pick up these tags. And as long as the information is in the database, the criteria is put in the database about the particular tag, the reader will actually pick it up. So for instance, if I know that I'm looking for a vehicle that has this tag number, this car, make, model, and color, I can put that in the database. And so that computer will just ride around or the camera will just ride around. And as soon as it hits, it'll alert the repo guy that the vehicle is right here. And so that fascinated me. And so as we move forward in life, years past, and I'm assuming that technology has evolved into what we have now with the flock cameras, which are everywhere. So now this is a stationary camera that is placed randomly in the community, and they're placed by private entities and they're placed by government entities, and they just basically pick up tags. That's what they used to do. Now they're more enhanced and they're picking up more than tags now. But it's amazing to me how law enforcement has now developed a procedure, a standard operating procedure of implementing those flock cameras in their investigations and how they transact business as relates to crime solving and just gathering information on people that may be under investigation. So it's Big Brother at its finest.
Right. So gathering information, regardless of if it's a crime or not, it's literally stationary all over the place. And I'm just going to cover this real quick. I don't know if there's pictures of them, but you'll see these around everywhere. And so, like I said, it just started going into more and more details that I wasn't aware of. I had heard about them, didn't necessarily dive into it at that time, but I wanted to bring it to the Akim just so brothers know that these are more devices that we should not be ignorant of, because it's through the technology. And ultimately, they're going to get to how AI will now be the driver, literally, of this collection of images, which now will trace you anywhere across the globe, whether it be your the tag on your vehicle, or you being present in the vehicle, or just more and more images of you creating a digital profile, man. This is insane, man. Okay.
Big Brother at its finest.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So what sort of, you talked about, obviously they're getting the license plate. What other information are these cameras pulling?
Performing on the biggest.
So these cameras are now able to pull images of the individuals that are in the car. Sometimes it may not be able to capture a full image of the person's features, but it may be able to tell that there's more than one person in the car. Sometimes it does capture your features. You have to look at it like this. How many people that you know have gone through a yellow light that's maybe just now turning red, and they get a ticket weeks later, and the ticket, when they dispute it, the ticket shows their face. That happened to me. I disputed the ticket, and they sent me immediately, me driving through the red light with a smile on my face. So you got to think about that kind of technology is now being used in these flock cameras. So
this is 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. It says, "And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light." Because this technology that's being broadcasted to people, they think it's harmless. They think that it's just a part of how the world is supposed to occur. But all of this is leading into more and more, especially the elect, of now being cornered or being traced and tracked. There's already these devices, right? And then now those devices are now communicating with the 5G, which are now communicating with the vehicles. Okay, all of this is just a big net, an invisible net to capture, the children of Israel, man, all over again. So like I said, this is more informational. Obviously, it's always spiritual, but just for brothers to be aware that these devices are out here, man. And to the public, it's just going to seem like it's just casual. Like people don't have any pushback. This video, I think, was posted in February, right? And it only has 1,000, views. But it's because people don't view this as something harmless. They view it as something harmless and not something that is malicious. When everything that Esau, the so-called white man, does is evil. Okay.
So there's that information that the flock cameras are picking up. They're also picking up information about the vehicle itself. It could have a sticker in the windshield or a sticker in the back of the vehicle, dents.
So once again, it starts out as the tag on the vehicle, but because it's given a broad imagery, that imagery is now put in a database along with whatever the unique features are of your vehicle, man. And this may not sound as alarming, as the charagma, but all of this is leading to the charagma, okay? To where, like I said, God forbid, brothers get in binds or whatever, but when these AI generated, models are tracking and tracing behavior patterns and starting to predict, okay, where, scenarios are happening, just like with I'll even say some of these words, oogle, right? Like when these things are telling you what time you typically wake up, telling you where you going. Oh, do you want to take the same route? All of that is Satan's devices, man. Okay. And who's to say that at any given time he can override the system and you're just paying attention, to the direction or the map, right? And now that map leads you into oncoming, scenarios that are not profitable. So it's just more of a admonishment and more of a warning, for these types of devices as we continue to, go down the path of Jacob's trouble, that these scenarios are going to be used as ways to it's like virtual sonar. You know what I'm saying?
Any kind of identifying markers on the vehicle are going to be able to be placed in the flock camera system to pick up these vehicles. So it's just not the tag anymore.
Right. So, playing devil's advocate here. So, like, let's say you have a political party sticker on the back of your car. They could sort all of the information, based on the same political party sticker on it, and people who have similar of it, and kind of almost build a database of who supports what party in a community.
Look, I don't know that specifically, but I do know this. They're able to identify a particular sticker on the vehicle, the location of a sticker on the vehicle. And, like you said, playing devil's advocate, like what are the limitations to that? What are the limitations on you saying, I'm looking for a red and black sticker that has this image on it, and I want to see the tags associated with that sticker? While I don't have personal experience through my business in identifying that that's what that's used for, I can only assume that if you're able to identify a particular sticker and the location of the sticker, that you can take that information and go wild with it. I mean, there's nothing limiting what the flock camera system capabilities are at this point, because like I said, initially we thought it was just reading a tag. We now know that that's not the case. It's more than just reading a tag. Okay. One of the cases that I had where we realized the ability of the flock camera was when it comes down to these vehicles that are being stolen. Like, the real popular vehicles that are being stolen, the Hellcat. Like, I had a client that told me that he just kept being stopped by police officers in different jurisdictions. And he didn't understand. And then what caught his attention was he was stopped in one jurisdiction and they made a comment about something that he said in another jurisdiction. And that kind of, made him think. And when he told me that, I said, well, how would they know that? And what we found out was that his vehicle was in a database, not the vehicle itself, but the fact that he had a Hellcat that had an out-of-state license plate. There was a criteria run in one jurisdiction picking up all those vehicles that met that description. And when he was stopped, they got his vehicle identification number off of his windshield.
How are we able to offer the
And then all these commercials are popping up because Esau knows he's being found out.
And you're saying to yourself, well, how do you do that? Well, when the officer's
Right.
talking to you, they're able to get all that information. And so they put that information in the database. So that's what caused him to keep popping up along with his
Gotcha.
license plate. And so the notation was, we need to figure out how we can get the vehicle identification number from somewhere else in the vehicle, instead of just on the windshield,
Right.
in the dashboard area.
Right,
And
yeah,
so
right in the front.
that's what caused me to realize, wait a minute now, how are they getting this information, and how are they communicating with one another the way they're communicating with one another when you're not a suspect of anything? And that's when we delved more into block cameras, and we started the block camera series, because people needed to know, like, you can be an innocent person that just happen to have one of these vehicles, and you're going to be targeted because you have one of these vehicles.
And the targeted part is, once again, how Esau in his weaponry and how he makes everything a weapon. That weapon is aimed towards the hopefully elect, man. So like I said, this is more just, information as brothers move about, to and fro in Babylon, because, these are things that Esau has, really beguiled the people to believe that this is an advantage for quote unquote criminals, but he's going to tie, Israelites to any type of criminal action that he can to forward his agenda, man. We're talking about the damn devil, man. All right. But yeah, once they get your tag on that vehicle and it's associated with your vehicle identification number. See, everything is about identifying, but that identification number, now it doesn't matter where you go at any given time, you're a bleep on the radar. Okay. You may think, all right, well, I'm about to go from, one state to the next state or whatever, but now everything about you or that vehicle tied into, whatever and all of this is ultimately going to lead to, the UBI and then ultimately, they're going to bring in the Charagma, but all of this is going to tie to, okay, this is this person and this is their journey. And even they do it now. Like I said, on some of these Google apps, right? You go back in your history, it'll tell you everything that you've done in the past 6 months, where you went, what time you were there, how long you were there, right? How many times you've been there in the past, whatever, So this whole technology, this beast system is a trap, man. It's a snare. All right. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7. It says, let's start at 6. It says, and now ye know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. Only he who now let it will let until he be taken out of the way. Because these are the things that are being revealed about Esau, these devices. Because we're not ignorant to him, especially the Charagma, right? But these things are going to happen until he be taken out of the way. Verse 8, it says, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Okay, and he's being revealed by who? The prophets of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Verse 9, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. Okay, because people believe in this technology, man, headlong, regardless of what it is. They're enamored with it until these lying wonders are now putting them in concentration camps, right? Now taking them out of the quote unquote comforts of life, and now you haven't gone, with food for 3 or 4 days, man. And Jacob's trouble is kicking off. And now that technology that you quote unquote fell in love with, these Babylonians fell in love with, now it's to your downfall. Because now your endorphin kick from these damn devices is gone, and now you're hundreds times worse than what you were from the very beginning, man. And then ultimately Esau is gonna bring this world back to those Babylonians and tell them that the only way you can re-access this quote unquote system is through the Charagma. It's wicked as hell, man. And that's why it says, even him who's coming is after the working of Satan. This is the working of Satan, man. Okay. It says the adversary. It says with all power and signs and lying wonders, because to have this type of technology, to actually have it put up, okay, because obviously it's using, because it looks like it's from Georgia, 2017, or at least this company was founded in 2017. And it says technology surveillance. Come on, man. You know, automated. See, because before it was just the CCTVs, closed circuit television cameras, and then the automated license plate readers. What's this? Gunfire detection systems. Oh, because that's another part of this system that I think she's going to mention, or at least I had read. It says gunfire locator or gunshot detection system is a system that detects and conveys the location of gunfire or other weapon fire using acoustic, vibration, optical, or potentially other types of sensors, as well as a combination of such sensors. Let's look this up real quick. What is it? Oh, this is just software. It says these systems are used by law enforcement, security, military, government offices, schools, and businesses to identify the source and, in some cases, the direction of gunfire and or the type of weapon fired. Most of these possess three main components. An array of microphones or sensors. Accelerometers, okay. Accelerometers, all right. So basically the speed, infrared detectors, either co-located or geographically dispersed, a processing unit, a user interface that displays gunfire alerts. So all of these scenarios are being used against the children of Israel, man. And we don't even, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Okay. But Esau has to create this scenario to where now he can persecute, our people all over again. All right. So let's wrap up with maybe another few minutes of this, because like I said, I'll leave this link in the description box. But it's much more than just reading license plates.
So
Right.
and then we went from there to them tracking individuals that maybe vanished from a county and putting their license plate in to see where they've traveled. Why are you doing that? You want to see if they're in the county, but now you don't even have to have a witness that says that they're in the county. Now the flock camera can pick up your tag and show that you're where you're not supposed to be.
Right. So the whole quote unquote Constitution is thrown out the window. See, the technology is usurping the Constitution. Not that the Constitution had any damn value anyway, but it's just the point that like Esau is coming with those draconian measures, man. Okay. It's speaking like a dragon.
Right. So, there are people who say, okay, the flock camera provides an important service because they could potentially find a stolen vehicle or somebody who has been kidnapped and this vehicle's been reported. And I think that's all well and good. That's good policing. But then on the other side, we have, normal citizens are being surveilled at the same way that criminals are. Where does the Fourth Amendment fit into this and this new system that we find ourselves in?
Well, I can tell you what I've researched. I understand that concern. Mm-hmm. The concern is how far are they allowed to take it without having some type of oversight? And as it stands right now, there has not been any successful challenge to the Fourth Amendment, rights that we have as relates to flock cameras. And the reason that is because you don't have a right to privacy to your tag. And remember,
right,
the purpose of the flock camera is to pick up the tag. You don't have a right to privacy on a sticker that's on your vehicle. You don't have a right to privacy on anything that is open and obvious on the vehicle. You don't have a right to privacy. You don't have a right to privacy to the color of the vehicle that you're driving. You don't have a right to privacy to the make and model of the vehicle. Because there's no right to privacy, there is no Fourth Amendment violation. Now, are there violations? We would have to assume yes, if you are tracking individuals without any justification for why you're tracking the individuals.
Sure.
Does that happen? I would have to assume that it does. But the bottom line is, how do we prove that? you don't prove that unless you are in a case that has resulted from that type of surveillance, and you're able to track back that investigation to the illegal use of flock cameras, and then you're able to proceed forward with a motion to suppress that information because it was done, illegally or unlawfully.
Right. But until they prove, which you're now going right back into Esau's wicked ass system and his laws, which we know that his laws are and his ways are grievous, right? All of those things mean that they would be able to still have you retained or detained until you were able to prove that it was used illegally, in which they can now just say, well, it just so happened that that information came across our desk. We weren't really trying to do that. It just happened to come up on our desk. This place is wicked as hell, man. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3. It says, but if our gospel be hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Hamashiach, who is the image of Yahweh, should shine unto them. Okay. So the God of this world had blinded people to believe this type of technology, or any technology coming from the damn devil, is useful. Okay. It's all corrupt. Okay. Even though we out there on the highways and byways telling our people who we are, who they should return to, which is Yahweh Shem Yahushai, right? And who their enemies are, they're still going to be blinded to the truth, So when Jacob's trouble comes, they'll, as scripture says, then will they know that a prophet was amongst them. Okay. We'll play this last part, and Lord will, this was edifying.
Awfully.
Right. So to kind of bring this home for folks, when you are in public, you have no right to privacy. And the courts have upheld that for a very long time.
That's right.
And while that may make us feel uncomfortable, I was actually talking to my 12-year-old son this morning, and I said that I was talking to you on my podcast today, and I was like, talking about flock cameras, and he's like, well, don't people need permission to take your picture? And I was like, well, and that's what we teach kids. That's what we teach kids now. And so it was kind of hard to explain to him, like, no way, because if you're in public, you really don't have a right to privacy, which was kind of confusing to him. And when I said it all out loud, it kind of sounded confusing to me too.
Let's compare that to facial recognition software. Like when you're out and about, you don't even know how many times you engage that type of software in your day-to-day routine. And so
check this out. Wow. Flock Safety's network of cameras utilizing image recognition and machine learning can share data with police departments and can be integrated into predictive policing platforms like Planeteer. Incredible. Government surveillance, man. Artificial intelligence, facial recognition. Insane. Absolutely insane.
Is there a constitutional violation for there to be face recognition software that picks up your image and, runs any kind of, background check or whatever the case may be as relates to the image that they found? Typically, my understanding is if they catch an image, they're only able to compare that image to an image that they have stored in the system, like a BOLO or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are there opportunities to go beyond that? I would assume so, but we're not the way that we used to be back in, the time where computers and technology, wasn't taking over everything. We're not talking about using a Polaroid camera to take an image anymore. That's not
right. And
waiting for it to come out, and then we're not doing that. So as technology evolves, as AI evolves,
yeah.
I would assume that there would be challenges to Fourth Amendment constitutional rights. However, with the evolution of technology the way that it is, it makes it very difficult.
Right.
And, there
Yeah.
are always exceptions that are in favor of the government when it comes down to Fourth Amendment issues. So one of the exceptions is like we already know, if it's open and obvious, is in plain view. If it's in plain view, then there's no issue there.
Right.
So, Lord will, this was edifying for the elect. This whole place, man, is wicked. And Esau's henchman, his Frankenstein, is any technology that ties into his artificial intelligence. But that's why we're hastening the days, man. Okay? Because although all of this is wicked, it's also going to lead to the deliverance, of the hopeful elect, So continue to pray for mercy, continue to pray for deliverance, continue to pray for each other. And Lord will, we'll be out here soon. Until next time, shalom.